What the heck is a quad lock?
Watch this to find out.
Whether you're in the car, on the bike, on the water, in the air, your phone is an important tool. Keep it secure with Quad Lock.
You reckon he's done?
I reckon it's...
So who's out then?
Well, when we had Earl and
So
Steve...
who's out though? No, go on. You're going to throw a prediction out?
No, I don't know who's out. Hang on, I'm not here
Well,
to
you said he's
fucking
signed,
ruin...
mate. You said he's buying a house in Queensland.
I'm not here to ruin careers. I don't know, it's a big rumour. It's worth throwing out there, but fuck, we're two guys at a bar that can say whatever we want, really.
Do you reckon there'll be a press release on this after this episode?
Oh no! He's in the fence! The boat's in the fence! All in the fence! Oh, unbelievable!
Sound check.
Sound check. I've swapped over to the Reckless Brewing mid for this show.
Oh, back on the Reckless.
Well, I've run out of Victor Bravos and this is a great drop.
I saw VB commented on our... Mate, I felt like we had made it. Like,
How good. When I saw that, I was like, that's...
we have, but...
They haven't sent us any beer yet, though, so if you're listening, couple of cases.
Yeah, so shout out to Reckless Brewing because those guys have sent us some beverages over and appreciate that. If you want to support those guys, they're a Bathurst brewery and absolute legends as well. But we're back, mate. Episode 44. We are back to back tonight. We just had the debrief for Suzuka F1.
Yep.
First one we've ever done there. And we're back on deck at the bar for a pre-brief for the Supercars. It's crazy. It feels like, especially when there's been so many F1 races happening in between, it feels like it's been a little while since the Melbourne Grand Prix. But I feel like this is exciting. The race there last year was a hectic one. So they've jumped the ditch and they are back in New Zealand for the Supercars. I'm really looking forward to it. And they've changed the format this year as well. So they've got a couple of sprint races and the main race on Sunday.
Yep.
If you can, sub to our channel as well. We just went live for the last debrief for Formula One. And obviously, if you sub with notifications on, you will be told when we do that. And you can join us for the chat because it genuinely helps us out as well because we don't want to be just two guys at a bar talking shit about what we think is interesting.
Yeah.
We do want you guys to actually help. And if we get something wrong, you can tell us live. And we have I have no shame in saying I've fucked up and you guys can tell me if I got it right or wrong in the chat.
And our listeners and viewers are pretty good at that. They don't let anything slide, which is great. You really get behind what AHU is all about, so that's awesome.
Yeah, we're all here learning. That's I guess the main thing. But of course, yeah, shout out to all our partners as well.
Yep.
They keep coming back and we are live streaming this one special for Patreon. Our partners as well, if you can, they're on the screens behind us. East Coast Car Rentals, Trico Products, Lancaster Motor Group, Shore & Partners, Quad Lock as well.
Yep.
Of course, if you've noticed too, we've got some memorabilia in the background. We mentioned in the last podcast, we have a Mark Scaife and Craig Lowndes car.
1998, ladies and gentlemen.
We found out, yes, we didn't know that one. Our listeners told us, 1998 livery. That was one of my favourite liveries, actually, which was, my dad was devastated because he's a massive Ford fan, so I told him how much I liked that car. But I think it was that livery, actually, the 98 one that had the rubbish in the front that won Bathurst, wasn't it?
That was 2000. That was the 2002,
it?
I think. Yeah.
Oh, anyway, Z Motorsport Memorabilia have jumped on as a supporter of the pod, but really a supporter of you guys. So they've given us a bunch of memorabilia. Every month we're going to do a giveaway on Patreon. The first thing we're giving away is actually some Pioneer DJ equipment.
Yeah.
So if you want to upset the missus or you are a hobby DJist or whatever it might be, we've got some equipment here. But sub to Patreon, all the links for all our partners as well will be in the description below. But yes, we'll be drawing out the Motorsport memorabilia every month. Once a month, we are literally giving away some stuff. So it was really about finding ways to give back to you guys because I know that there's an investment from you to support us. But we're back for round 3 of Supercars.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Grand Prix was not that I was a little disappointed with our pod, to be honest. I felt like the racing and everything steered a bit of a negative pod. There's a lot of feedback, a lot of controversy, and of course what went out on our socials caused a bit of drama. And so that was disappointing. But I think that going to Tapo, the racing there was good last year with the weather. Like that helped a lot. It looks fine though, but I think the format will be better. And
well, they raced in the rain there, so that helps.
Well, that was the first thing. And actually, shout out to Trico. They've just done a deal as a supplier of windscreen wipers for Supercars. So let's hope they actually use them. It's a good product. I mean, there is no excuse.
Good. It's bloody great, mate.
We've got great roll cages, windows. The drivers don't even get wet, mate. They get roofs on the car.
Sealed unit. Just send it.
Sealed unit with windscreen wipers and good wets, apparently. And as the commentators keep reminding us, they are the best drivers in the entire world. So let's go wet racing if it happens. And congrats Trico, though. Supporting Supercars is awesome. But do you want to...
No, before we go, mate, you're back behind the wheel.
Yes,
Talk us through
I've just done what you do every week, not wanting to
Yeah, I know.
pump our own
Pump
tyres up.
yourself up, son. No, so Scotty's back behind the wheel. I'm going to let him talk about it. So he's actually heading across the ditch, which is very exciting. I'm looking forward to tuning in and seeing you up on the wheel again, mate. Just talk us through what you're up to.
Yeah, I'm back behind the wheel. Of course, as co-driver, it's always it's really important for me to get as many miles as I can. And I had a really cool opportunity where Nick Mitchell reached out to me from over the other side of the ditch in New Zealand, and he works with the Richards team Motorsport, and asked if I would come and steer one of their race cars. It's a Toyota, of all things. It's quite funny because I think a few people thought that was odd, given that Toyota's entering the Supercars Championship, but it has nothing to do with that. It's very separate. But it is a Toyota Super Tourer.
Yep.
It's actually the car that Brock Feeney's engineer raced back in the day in New Zealand, but it has been engine swapped now. And the thing has a NASCAR engine in it. So it used to have, I think it had like 600 horsepower or 500 and something horsepower. It now has, at the wheels, it now has 787 at the wheels. They just found out the other day. They had some mapping issues, so they put it back on the dyno and said they actually found another 7 horsepower. So it's actually, it's going to be a bit of a weapon. And they're expecting as well, they're expecting the car can break the record, the lap time.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I'm capable, but the pressure is on me. So the last time it was ran was actually, a lot of the supercar guys went over to learn the track at Tapo.
Yeah. Well, actually, on that, Nick Percat went over. I had him on note because he texted me. He drove a TA2 car.
All right.
And Nick sent me a text, goes, I'm going to Tapo tomorrow to drive a Trans Am. How do you drive it? I said, you'll be right, mate. Just send it.
How do you drive it? Nick, mate, it's got 3 pedals and steering wheel. You'll be fine. You work it out. It's done enough. I would still like to have a drive of Trans Am, actually. They do look good fun. The car was the fastest lap it did at the Tapo 400 was Chaz on a 26.49 in practice 1.
Chaz Mostert.
Must have been Chaz Mostert.
Right.
But the fastest lap on the number 4 TLX Camry during this weekend of testing was by Andre. So this must be when the supercar guys, these are some notes I've got from the guys. This is when the supercar guys went over to learn the track. Here's a fun fact for you that Will won't be liking, but Andre Heimgartner was actually the fastest at a 30.4 in that car, and Will did a 30.7. So prior to the race weekend, Andre, and he did back it up when they went there for the supercars, he won in the wet. Yep. So he's obviously very quick. But the boys have said you add another 240 horsepower, plus the car is a little bit lighter. So it's going to be interesting to see what I can put together.
So if you don't get the record, everyone's going to be like, God, shit.
So I'm genuinely very excited about this. The car only weighs 1,320 kilos dry, and the tyres are the same as a supercar, so 18-inch tyres. Bodywork's all composite. The thing's unbelievable. I'll put in a video right now of it on the dyno. It sounds unbelievable.
So for our engine fans out there, it is a Phase 14 TRD, so Toyota Racing Development, which is where they build all the race Toyota engines, so for NASCAR and things like that. So it is a 358 TRD NASCAR engine. So, and you've got there, the team's obviously about 780 horsepower at the wheels.
At the wheels.
That's not at the engine, at the wheels.
Yeah, I know.
So it's a real beast.
I can't remember what they said at the engine. Like it was something ridiculous. But I mean, 780 at the wheels it's cool because supercar.
The funny thing is, you're on a supercar tyre, and a supercar's undertied with 650 horsepower. So how are you going to get the extra 200 and something horsepower to the ground, mate?
I'm just that fucking good.
You'll just be short shifting every bop.
But I'm actually, I'm really excited, and the crew seem awesome. Like at this point, I'm all about going to have some fun on race weekends. Like we just did the NASCAR thing at the Adelaide Motorsport Festival, which was so much fun. And this is another one of those opportunities where, I love driving cars and I get to go do it with no pressure. Obviously, I want to see what times it can do. And we're on right before the supercars as well. So I get 2 practices. I'm full support category mode, though. I'm not at all a morning person, as you know, mate.
But track sweeping.
8 a.m. is practice 1 and 7:50 a.m. is race 1. I haven't been awake at 7:50 a.m. in years. So
you're definitely not a morning person.
We've got 3 races, 10 laps each, so short dashes, 2 practices and a quali on Friday. And for Richards Team Motorsport, so shout out to those guys in New Zealand. I'm very excited about heading over there and doing some laps.
And the livery looks pretty cool. You got a little AHU sticker down the side, which looks awesome. So
and some of our partners as well. Like I just appreciate the support they're giving us. And so there's a few on our car. I'll release that soon. I'll pop on our socials. The livery, because it does look epic, and it's the first time we've had Apex Hunters right down the side of a car, other than SATA.
How much did you pay yourself for that weekend?
Oh, it's big bucks, mate. I'm on the big dollars there. But no, this year, you know, as a co-driver, it's tough to get laps. So I'm very appreciative of the guys giving me an opportunity to drive that car. Even the NASCAR, like everything I've got to drive this year will be, you know, in the pursuit of trying to win Bathurst. You know, we've obviously got the Bend as well, but I feel like Sandown ticked that box, and Bathurst was a big one left unticked last year. So I need to be sharp, and it's not easy. Like I relate to everyone out there trying to find $1 to go race, and it's really hard. So when these things pop up, I will jump at them, mate. So I can hopefully do my job at the end of the year with Will in car one.
Hopefully, will you guys be restricted about running in-car cameras and stuff? Will you be able to release any footage from the weekend? Do you know?
I don't know, but fuck it. I mean, I'm about breaking rules, so maybe we just...
If you can sneak some up for a Patreon members, that'd be awesome, I think. Because it's going to sound, I can just imagine, it's going to sound good. So, I want to hear it.
And it's all very last minute, this is. But one thing I'm really excited about, Murph messaged me back today, which I haven't even told you about yet. But he apologised that he hadn't replied. He missed my message, and I saw it before I came in here. But he does want to do something, so I might need to get some last-minute flights for Paulie that works for me and take all our equipment over, because apparently he has some place that maybe we could film. So maybe we could fly over Sunday night, do a pod with Murph Monday morning, and then I'll come home with you Monday afternoon. But it's all...
Well, we are Midnight Motors here, so that's pretty standard down.
I know. But, you know, I'd love to sit down with Murph as well, Kiwi legend.
Especially in New Zealand. If we can find the right spot, that'd be super cool. So let's make that happen.
And every time we've chatted to him, he is so unfiltered and just like... He's brilliant.
He's awesome. I love him.
He's really good. Let's get to Tapo. That's enough about me.
Yeah. But that's cool, man. I'm pumped for you. And I look forward to hearing your debrief to me after your first session. I'm going to be wild.
Yeah. Well, I hope everyone's enjoying the show. We want to give a quick shout out to our partners that make this possible. Start with East Coast Car Rentals. If you're in the market for a rental car, AHU 15 for 15% off already fantastically priced hire cars. Trico wiper blades. Barbs, if you're in the market for wiper blades, what are you going to buy?
Tricos.
Absolutely. And if you don't want to rent a car, you want to buy one, Lancaster Motor Group.
That's right. And if you go in and you mention Apex Hunters, you get a free wheel alignment. When's that till, Scotty?
End of June, I believe it is, this year. So if you get in and mention Apex Hunters, you don't mention our name specifically because...
I won't know who you're talking about. But if you are one to hit the gutters, or your missus likes to hit the gutters in your car, mine is guilty of that too. Take it in, they'll give you a free wheel alignment, job done.
All the links to these websites will be in the description of this video. So Shaw and Partners as well, big supporter of ours, are on the microphones, only fresh these ones. And Quad Lock, the link there, if you're after any phone mounts, adapters, or a cover, you need a case for your phone. Action cam mounts as well. We smashed those. That we used them flat out the Adelaide Motorsport Festival. Any of the vision
that was awesome captured there was so quick to just change them.
Well, that was the thing that I didn't realise. Yeah, you don't need to undo your GoPro mount anymore. They've got their own connector, so that's very fast. But if you can, support the partners that keep us alive. If you'd love to watch our podcast live, like some of our Patreon members, go over there and sub. Back to the show.
Let's just recap last year a little bit, because being a pre-brief, we don't really know what's going to happen. It's just predictions, but we do know from last year, race 7, you guys may remember that it was wet and that we had that. So Waters was on pole, and then we had the start line crash with Slade. Slade did a mega job, qualified 4th.
Felt bad for him.
Got a great start, and then they just a bit of a clumsy crash where he didn't know he was clear, and there was just stuff going on everywhere, and they so that was a bit of a shame. But Andre Heimgarten actually then won that race. So BJR managed to get their first win for the season that year.
He just missed out on the Jason Richards Trophy too, I believe.
Right. So, that's obviously something that, as you touched on earlier, Scotty, it's a Jason Richards Trophy. So, not a lot of the Kiwis obviously want to win that. He was a great driver, and that's always pretty special for him when they go over back home racing. So, that's on the line this weekend too. So, all the Kiwis will be fired up for that. And then all the Aussies that admired, Jace Richards as well will be pushing hard for that as well. So, I know Randall's he put out some stuff. He's really keen because of the, cancer stuff that he went through, and obviously that's what Jason went through as well. So, so that's a pretty cool trophy for them, and a little extra sort of carrot for the boys to go and chase and sort of push that extra bit harder. But Andre won that race, and then in the wet, Red Bull really struggled in that wet race. They, apparently it was pressure related on the wets or something, but they were just kind of nowhere, and then they came out in race 8 when it was dry. That's when we saw that ripping race with Will and Brock going hammer and tong, a little bit of contact between teammates. But they also spanked everyone. So they were 15 seconds up on third, which was Anton. So that race 8, they really got their stuff together and they were flying. So
they struggled so much with that tyre pressure thing. I remember Will pitted, I think he started on the set that he struggled on, and then they switched and he came back through the field later.
Right.
They realised like their start pressures were way off. But I couldn't believe how much that killed that thing. Like they were nowhere. And then the way they bounced back, like you said, what was the gap, sorry, that you just said?
So I believe it was 15 seconds from second to third. So they were 1-2 nose to tail, and then it was 15 back to Anton when he was at DJR. So I am, and Prezzo put it in our chat before, but I'm quietly excited to see how DJR are going to go. They had some form there last year. We know it's completely revitalised the place there with drivers and other key staff members. So it'll be interesting to see how Brody goes. It was Brody's first time back in the car after his sabbatical last year. So he's done laps there. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he and Will go because they were strong last year. So bit of a recap for you guys on what happened last year. So I think Taupo produces both races, whether it be race 7 when it was wet or race 8 when it was dry, were really action-packed. And going on this year, how action-packed all the racing's been, I think we're in for a treat. I'm actually really looking forward to the racing. I think it's going to be fantastic. As you said, a lot of drivers have snuck over and done some laps around the place again. So whether it be Brock and Will that did the Toyotas there, I think they did TRS there over summer.
Well, I think that
Will did. Sorry, Brock might not have, but Will definitely did. As we said, Nick Percat shot over there for a day and drove a Trans Am car around there, or a TO2 car around there. So
did he say what he thought of the Trans Am car?
No, actually, I don't know if he did, but yeah, he just texted, I'm driving one, any tips? I just said, hold it pin till you see God, then hit the brakes, mate. Pretty standard like every other race car. So, but they would be really fun, like they're fun everywhere. So I'm sure it would have been a good car to cut some laps in, because from what I work off, basically your brake zones and all your points are identical to a supercar, a Gen 3 supercar. You're just going a little bit slower in some sections. So it'll be super relevant. So a few of the boys have sort of shot over there and done some practice. So I think everyone's going to be sharp as they always are. And I think the racing's going to be pretty intense.
Before we go into some details about the event, can Brody win this weekend? Do you think this is the time he gets a W?
What round are we? 3, mate? Did you say, who said round 3 they were going to win at? You said GP. Someone else?
I thought GP maybe a podium, but don't just. What's your thoughts? Can Brody get a W already? Like,
I would just off so far how they're tracking, I would probably say. But I'm always wrong. So if I say no, he will. So I'll say no, and then Brody will win. He'll probably clean sweep the weekend. So, but my gut feel is how strong Triple Eight were in the dry. Yeah, it'll be tough. It'll be interesting. I think that'll be
a terrible answer. It'll be tough. It'll be interesting.
Well, I'm sitting on the fence. I got splinters. I can feel them already. I'll just say no for a short, sharp answer. But I would not. He'll be on the podium.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he can get a podium this weekend. I don't think he can get a W. I'm not sure he's on for the win yet, but he will be right there. I think this is the track with quite high deg. It's 0.05 to 0.15 a lap,
which is where Triple Eight is so strong.
And exactly. But that is the old tyre. There's a new tyre this year that seems to have better deg numbers. The drivers have said it's definitely not. I don't want to say definitely. The drivers have said it's not helping the racing in their opinion. But deg numbers could be very different this year, so we don't really know what to expect. But last year, when they were high deg, the Triple Eight car seemed to have a strength over the field.
So we've got 3 races this weekend, which is, as you said, they've changed up a bit. So there's 2 37 lappers. So I guess your sprint race style.
Yep.
Shorter,
one
sharper.
stop, 2 tyre minimum, I believe it is. Actually, I think it's in every stop you do this weekend. It's just 2 tyre minimum.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then they've got on Sunday basically almost double the length. So a 61 lapper.
Yeah.
Which is good. So, I mean, the best thing for us fans is that we get an extra opportunity to see, a different result. So I think there's a couple of people that can end up on the podium this weekend. As we know, there's always sort of 8 to 10 that are a chance if they get their stuff sorted and the cars are good. Someone's popped in the chat there.
Flynn Johnson, Woody for a podium.
Woody, he was 4th there last year. I completely agree. I think there'll be a few Kiwis that'll be really fast there. Andre's going to be fast there again if BJR can give him the tools.
How good would it be to see this weekend be the event that Woody comes to life on and wins the Jason Richards Trophy. To go from all this stuff where I've said, we want to see him deliver and he needs to step up and close the gap. I think he closed the gap at the AGP and out-qualified Chaz, beat Chaz, raced, regardless of what anyone thinks of that Jack LeBrock thing, I think that what we saw from Woody was right. I think we saw a driver who was just pushing the limits and racing aggressively. It would be so good to see Woody do well at Tapo, being a Kiwi in his, second season?
Yep, second season.
I think this could be where we see maybe the making of Woody, because last year he did so well there. It would be cool to see him do well on his home turf, especially...
tend to see that a little bit with the Kiwis too, when they do get, like we see it at Pookie.
Yep.
When they'd go back to they would always just rise to the occasion.
Yep.
I don't know why that is, because we don't believe that track knowledge is a massive advantage for professional drivers, but maybe it is. I'm not sure.
I like to think that drivers don't always operate on confidence either, because as a driver, you don't want to think that there could be a weekend where you're not just, we just think like you got 2 arms, 2 legs. Every time you get in a car, you do the best job you can. You think that that should be the same every week, but there is no denying that a home ground advantage is a real thing. You see it. You see it in the AFL when there's the crowd around a home crowd. They play, they lift, the motivation's there. You race more aggressively. I think that you look for every little 1%, and whether you recognise it or not, I think racing in front of a home crowd is very special. And I think you can't deny it, because wherever you look, like in Formula One particularly, a home Grand Prix is always the toughest for them. You always see a driver struggle at the home Grand Prix. That's always a thing, and I think it's because the pressure's amplified. But the Kiwis seem to just turn it up. Like, look at Murph's history at Pookie.
Yeah.
Look at Shane's history at Pookie and Scotty Mack. Like, they do a good job of under pressure, stepping up with the Kiwi fans around them and delivering. So Andre did it last year in really hard conditions. Woody drove really well. I got to say, though, Woody, I did hear the Drivers Only podcast, and I got to disagree. The penalties from the Grand Prix, all of the drivers kind of on the podcast said that penalties can't be outcome based.
Right.
Unfortunately, every penalty, regardless, like whether it's in motorsport or in real life, when it comes to like a crime, everything is outcome based. It's like I hadn't thought about this. I would say to everyone else on that pod that was on the Drivers Only one, I would have agreed 6 months ago. But I actually had a chat with Dutto, and Dutto said, well, hang on, if you don't think anything can be based on outcomes, what about the one punch kills thing?
Yeah.
If you punch someone in the face and break their nose, you're not going to go to prison for life. But if you punch them in the face, they drop down and they die, then you're probably facing a harsher penalty, a harsher crime, and a harsher penalty. And that's, everything it does have to be outcome based. And I think that's why we saw such a harsh penalty on Woody. I don't actually think, regardless of like whether he was in the right or the wrong, it is always going to be outcome based, because that's just how the judicial system works. It's like everything has to be outcome based because the penalty has to fit the crime. That's just, and I wanted to add that because I thought in the last pod I was probably a bit vague on that. I'm sorry, Beardo. I still...
You'll call you inspired.
But to be honest, mate, I had an hour and 20-minute chat to Beardo the other day on the phone, and it was awesome. But I disagree on the decision. But I think everyone's entitled to agree or disagree. But yeah, I do think that as drivers, we've got to realise that unfortunately it is always going to be based on the outcome, and sometimes the outcome might be more than we expected. When you do a pass or you make a move.
So are you saying that you agree with Beardo by penalising then or not? Because you're saying outcome based, you agree with the car end up in the fence, so should he have got a penalty?
No, what I'm saying is take that incident out of it, right? Forget that incident. The drivers said that penalties should not be outcome based.
Right, yeah. It's just as a general rule.
I'm saying as a general rule of thumb, unfortunately, penalties are 100% outcome based. And I think they got to be.
Yeah.
So looking at that isolated incident.
No, so that's why I'm just clarifying.
But again, you don't have all the information. I'm just a punter sitting on the couch with a beer going, I see the one replay and that's what I see. And obviously we have some info because we clearly had a screenshot. Yeah. But who knows? There's more to it. But all I'm saying is penalties have got to be outcome based. That's just how they work.
Penalties got to fit the crime.
100%, which is why they're outcome based. But I made a little segue there, but I wanted to clear that up from the last pod because I thought that was a little bit blurry.
Well done. That's clear as mud now. We'll give you the format, guys, because you'll be tuning in, no doubt. So for round 3 at Toe-paw, we've got Friday, we've got 2 30-minute practices, and that's it. So they get an hour of running on Friday. So 2 chances to tune the old chariots up and get ready to send it for pole. Saturday, they've got 2 30-minute qualifying sessions for races 8 and 9 of the championship. Saturday, they got the 2 37-lappers, as we touched on, which is a 2-time minimum, Scotty, I think you said, for each one.
Yeah, I believe so. Yep.
Cool. And then Sunday, they got another 30 minutes qualifying. It's a long time. And then they got the top 10 shootout as well on Sunday.
I don't understand.
It's a long time, 30 minutes for a quali session. Just give them enough to do two runs.
Mate,
Anyway,
I looked at the website and I checked it a few times. It says 30 minutes and there was no other details.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's a knockout or anything. I'm not sure if I've got this wrong, but on the website it literally just says.
The website's pretty shite. So.
Can we just actually, as a note, we've been doing a lot more stuff with F1 in the last week, just research.
We're experts now.
No,
for a week.
But the website's where you get a lot of your info from for schedules and things. And I'm like,
the user experience on the Supercars website is dog shit. I'm sorry, like maybe they haven't hired a UX specialist for it, but you should if you haven't, because it just needs a little bit of work.
It needs a lot of work.
Anyway.
You go through the F1 site and it's so easy to navigate and sync your calendar and book your tickets, but then I go onto the Supercar one, it's really challenging. But like even on when you go to the event overview, it only shows you the 3 races.
Yeah.
But then you don't get to see when practice is quality. But then you click onto the full schedule, and obviously you get every support category as well. So then you've got to go through. Yeah. And if you don't care about, you're looking for something specific, it takes longer than it should.
Yeah. Have a Supercar specific schedule and then a complete schedule for everyone's interested. And then Sunday you got the 61 lapper, which is 2-stop minimum.
Yeah.
So,
Jason has thrown in the chat, I think it is a knockout style quali on both days. Saturday just misses out on shootouts.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks, Jace.
This is why we live stream these things.
Correct. You guys know far more than we do.
And if that's wrong, Jason_AOC is the person you need to take it up with.
Just take it up with him.
Because we take
this is going live.
We take no responsibility. But I did check the site. I'm not sure. But the 61 lapper I think is going to be really cool. Fuel covers the tyres anyway.
They'll use jugs?
Yeah, the fuel churns again.
Yeah.
Yep. Which means that, and I love this, we talked about it at Sydney Motorsport Park, the rule will be the same. They're not going to be able to kind of determine where they'll drop out on track anymore, which is exciting.
Yep.
So they will have the fuel churn, put in the fuel required, and I didn't bother putting all that in there. We had all this information on litres per lap and how much fuel they needed to drop, but I feel like that's way too much
let's just see how
information after a few beers and 2 podcasts to bother diving into. But
I think the biggest thing you've got there too, Scotty, is the deg is. We know it's a new tyre. You touched on that, mate. But the deg is, if it's like last year, it's quite high. Yeah. So I think that's going to come into play with the strategy, which is good. I hope it is still high, even on the new tyre, just to create some strategy options and some good racing. So
one of the bits of information we got was that the shorter races they expect to see higher tyre deg. And if anyone's wondering why, you just push harder in a sprint race. Whereas the 61 lapper in the middle stint, you'll typically see cars tyre saving, so they could extend the middle stint.
Yeah. I hate tyre saving. I know it's part of the sport and all that,
shit.
but
in a way though, man, I have had some fun when you've saved a bit and then you can burn it up later.
Yeah, over a long day like a Bathurst or a Sandown 500 or something.
But even Townsville was a track where I was like, I remember sometimes I overcut. You'd save tyre at start of your stint, and then there was a point, like in that DeWalt car I had, I actually was going faster staying out than the guys that had pitted and undercut me because we'd saved so much tyre at the start. We went from like 21st to 4th or 5th.
I still just wonder if you would get more exciting racing if you had a tyre that you had to go max attack every lap and you could. Would you get more mistakes and more exciting racing is all I wonder.
No, high tyre deg and like...
I'm not saying it doesn't... Yeah, I guess if you
have good deg, you look after it.
Correct, yes.
I think you need deg, and then it means that you have to conserve the tyre, but then you'll see the difference in car balance. You'll start to see drivers that can look after tyres or not. I think like Scotty Mack said on our pod, you've got to bring back the anti-roll bars because there was a real skill in adjusting those to look after tyres.
Yep.
And that's when, like right now, I don't think a driver can really look after a tyre because everyone at our level...
You just drive it to the grip.
Yeah, everyone knows how to, be smooth on throttle and everyone knows the last like 10% of throttle still matters. You're not just chewing the tyre. Yeah. We used to run wheel spin lights and it was surprising out of the bowl, like the last 10% on throttle.
Yeah, Perth.
The purple lights on the dash would be going off and you'd think that you're almost through that phase where you couldn't wheel spin anymore, but you still could. So every driver knows that. But there was a skill in adjusting the roll bars to look after the tyre. And I think that's where someone like Shane did really well. Scotty Mack was obviously a king at it.
Yeah.
So they need to bring those back. But the deg, I hope it's high. I think it will be because the surface changes at Tapo. There's still a lot of them and it's high deg.
Quite old too, the surface, right?
Yeah. There's some patches. They've replaced some of it, but yeah. And now in the first 2 short races, usual pit stop's probably going to be around lap 16. Overcut likely to be around 22. So you're probably looking at windows are usually like 4 laps or something.
So I'll just cut it down the middle, you reckon, mate?
You're looking at like 16 to 20 maybe, and then 22 to 25, 27 being longer for an overcut.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is it did look like last year an overcut worked. So I don't know. When you have high deg, that's the other thing. You get alternate strategies actually work. If everyone has good tyres, you can't overcut someone or undercut them.
And look, you throw a safety car and then anything can happen.
Yes, we also have that stat. Fuck, we're so prepared. So last year is the only data that we have, but there's been 1 safety car per 200 kilometres at Tapo. Fuck.
God, you sound like Viet Sleuth, mate. That's very professional.
I am not a mouthpiece for Supercar, so do not say that. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. So we're looking at there'll be a safety car this weekend, but yeah, there's obviously only 1 weekend to go by. So
okay, I like it. Predictions, mate. Can MSR, Matt Stone Racing, back up their AGP form? What are you thinking?
Oh, I don't think so.
Really?
And I don't know why. It's the same with Cam Waters at the Grand Prix. I just had this feeling that they weren't that competitive at Sydney.
Right.
At a track I thought Sydney they were going to be. I remember Sydney, and that's a place that MSR has been very strong.
Yeah.
And I know that's probably a little bit controversy, but I don't think MSR will back up what they did at the Grand Prix. I know, last year Nick won at the Grand Prix and they backed it up this year, but it was a standout for them all year. And I feel like nothing against the drivers, but I'm not sure they're going to have the equipment to do what they did at the AGP. What do you think?
Well, I apologise, MSR, because I'm going to say you can, which chances are will mean I've jinxed you. But
that's why you're apologising.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's a compliment.
I think they can. I just think riding on that. I know confidence doesn't tune the cars up, but if they're, I think they'll ride on that. I think last year Cam Hill was a lot faster than Nick there last year. I don't know. I can't remember whether that was around that Nick thought he had the crack shot. I can't remember now.
As I've said that, Cameron Hill
he was good there last year.
In Saturday qualifying.
Yeah.
P5.
Yeah. So I think they're going to go all right. I think, and I think that's part of why
Nick must have had an issue last year.
Yeah. I just can't remember if that was the round where they went, there's something wrong with this, and then they pulled. I can't remember, but
24th he qualified.
Yeah. No,
I'm pretty sure he had a problem.
So I feel they will back up their form. I think they'll keep that going. Nick went over and did the laps as we touched on earlier, so they're putting some emphasis on it. I'm not sure if Cam's gone over and done the same thing, but yep, I think they can.
Cameron Hill in top 10 shootout backed it up. He was 5th in qualifying, 6th in the shootout.
Yeah, no, he was fast.
It is a track too that I don't even know if I put this in the notes, but it seemed fairly even between Ford and Chev all weekend.
You had fitty, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that's worth watching this year.
What do you reckon, Tickford, mate? Will they bounce back? Will Cam and Randall?
I think they will.
Yeah.
I actually think they can. I saw, looking at the notes from last year, Randall actually looked like he had some good performances.
Yeah, I think Randall's going to be strong there.
Yeah, so I think he can. What I'd love to see is Randall beat Cam.
Yeah, no, I think
nothing personal against you, Cam. I just really want to see, and I reckon Randall. This is a big one because it hasn't really happened yet, but I reckon Randall can beat Cam this weekend.
Yeah, no, sorry, Thomas. I'll back you on that. I reckon Thomas will have it.
You've just jinxed him, so now I'm fucked anyway on my prediction.
He'll have a good weekend, I reckon.
Yeah, and he's just renewed his contract, I think. Is that right? So.
Look, mate,
I'm pretty sure Randall was just, if he has, congratulations. So yeah, good timing for that.
Yeah.
One rumour I'm still throwing out there, I haven't heard anything on this since, and I put this out early. I reckon Cam signed at Premi-Air.
Fuck, you're throwing that out real
I'm throwing it out real early.
You reckon he's done?
I reckon it's
So who's out then?
Well, when we had Earl and
So
Steve...
who's out though? No, go on. You're going to throw a prediction out?
No, I don't know who's out. Hang on, I'm not here
Well, you said he's signed, mate. You said he's buying a house in Queensland.
I'm not here to ruin careers, all right? But I think... it was funny. I think Cam said, he replied to our story and said, because I said
Waters,
to him, I said, yeah, Waters. He replied, I said something to him about it, and he's like, if it buys more whiskey or something like that, because I said, you on the big bucks, mate. But I just reckon, I feel like we had Earl Evans and Steve Blackmore on the pod. They both said that their drivers had been approached by Premi-Air to sign. So they're looking.
It just seems strange because no one approached me.
Yeah, that is odd. That is odd. That's surprising. You're right, Elliot. Like,
Did you get a call, mate? My phone just
we
hasn't
don't need
rung.
to take it my way. But no.
Did you?
No, I didn't get a call. No, I was just saying, I'm like, mate, I'm hanging shit on you. We don't need to highlight that I didn't get the phone call as well.
We're both shit. We get it.
And a bunch of people have said Cam's not leaving, and because of loyalty and everything. But I'm sorry, like the loyalty, in terms of manufacturers, it's just not there anymore. I don't think from a driver's perspective, because you're so competitive. If Premi-Air came forward with a package and if RD's involved, whatever it might be, that he believes gives him the best opportunity to win, and he's been at Tickford long enough, maybe he feels like at this point nothing's changed or not enough has changed.
I don't know if he's I'm not you're throwing it there, but I would say if I was GM or Premier and I was going after a gun and I was looking at who I could hire, Cam would be my number one.
100%.
So it makes sense. So I'm with you, but
and for you to say like, who are they getting rid of? I don't know, but clearly they're getting rid of someone if they're prepared to ring other drivers and ask them for a drive, like say, will you come and drive for us? So there's someone on the chopping block.
So does that put a heap of pressure on then Richie and Jimmy?
100%. Oh, and I think, it does for sure. Yeah. And of course, Flynn, money talks. That's the problem. And Tickford pay a lot, yes, but I heard they were throwing some big numbers out there for Kostecki as well. There's a bidding war between, I think, Shell and Premi-Air for Brody. So the money's out there.
And you've got a couple of teams that do have wealthy team owners too, as well as great partners on board. So they've got a bit of cash to throw around if they need to.
At this level, though, money, I know people always say money doesn't make you happy, but it's not the deciding factor. Cam will want to look back at his championship and have a win in there.
Yeah,
He's won so many races, and to not have a championship to his name, I think he's almost going to be one of those guys that's like, never reached his potential at the end of his career if he doesn't have a title, because he's had so many pole positions, so many race wins. Like Chaz. Chaz has probably he's up there as one of the most race winningest drivers, but never converted a championship, which is really, that will be killing him. But I think if the opportunity's right at Premier, maybe he will. I don't know. It's a big rumour. It's worth throwing out there, but fuck, we're two guys at a bar that can say whatever we want, really.
Do you reckon there'll be a press release on this after this episode?
Well, I might make it the headline, Cam Waters to Premier. Oh, do you reckon?
Bit of clickbait, actually. Everyone else does
how's
it.
that for clickbait? I'll put it in quotes from Scott Pye. Cam Waters to... Cam will ring me and be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Cam will be like, mate,
it's the most rubbish story.
I've signed it ticket for another 5 years, you peanut.
It'll come out tomorrow. I won't even get to edit this pod before the news is out that he's done an extension at Tickford and I'm P nowhere.
While you're throwing that out there, do you reckon if that were to happen, would Monster go with him and it'd be like Battle of the Energy
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
I think so. Yeah, I think Cam's done enough. It's like Castro, I think, renewed with Tickford as well, just after Randall. Okay. Drivers build relationships with their partners.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's not uncommon to see them go together. And I think that if there was an opportunity that was exciting for Cam that really, really looked like he could win.
Sometimes change is as good as a holiday, mate, too. Like I said, we're just throwing it out there, but he has been there for a little while. And he said he's got a shitload of poles and all these wins and stuff, but hasn't yet had a title. He might get to the point where he thinks maybe I just need a change for myself. Yeah. Even though they're a great team, the car's really fast and all of that sort of stuff, sometimes people just need a change.
100%. I tell you what, we are all about talking shit at a bar. Here's something for bar chat. I got a DM from one of our fans. Said he was at the Toyota head office. I won't say who it was. And he
throw him in there, mate.
Yeah, I'm not going to dob a fan in. But he said, I'm happy to use this, and you'll know who you are if you're listening. Walked out of a meeting, Toyota head office, and he saw Charlie Schwerkold and Anton Di Pasquale in there having a chat as well.
What are they doing, buying a couple of new Camrys or something?
Well, I know that obviously Charlie has a deal with Toyota Material Handling, which is the forklift side of things, which is very different to the automotive side. But I believe this was the automotive side they were at. And it's just odd timing because the heat has kind of risen on them being homologation team for GM.
Which seems strange to me.
And then... Yeah, so maybe Olme's just really sending me up the garden path here.
Did you get video or photo of it?
No,
So
literally-
you're just running
I
with it.
literally have no evidence.
Oh, so it hasn't been backed up at all, but we're going with
No,
it.
no.
That's what we do at AHU, guys.
Yeah, I've had a few drinks and I think it's a great story, so we're putting it into the stratosphere. But it does sound, it's interesting. And if they are at the Toyota office, will they go to Toyota next year, or are they still going to be a chance of the homologation team? Hopefully we find out soon, because I know GM said they didn't want to mess around. They wanted to make a call quickly, and the clock's
thing
ticking.
The thing that's strange with me with the GM are now come out guns blazing, trying to get gun drivers and really get their stuff going so they can make sure they remain competitive now that Ford's going through it. But I don't know, just why would you then, like the rumours are going to, is Team 18 the best option? I mean,
No.
the other teams, I imagine, don't want to do it because it's a distraction and it's probably going to cost them some money. Even though GM will fund some of it, I'm sure, like we heard with DJR, it still cost them some money to tool up and do things they need to do do a good job of it. So,
Yeah.
to me, it just seems, I don't know, it just seems strange. But
I mean, Team 18, the frustrating thing, we know how good David Reynolds is. And at the moment, they're not putting two cars on the grid that are competitive. And of course, Dave's going to be on the chopping block like every driver before him. They're going to be saying, Dave's old, Dave's slow, whatever the fuck the story's going to be this time. But if you can't put two cars on the grid, you probably shouldn't be developing the next product for GM. You know, like I just think that...
I just think it'd be too much, like, distracting. And, I don't know, man. To me, it kind of contradicts the whole GM are going hard, they're trying to poach Cam, they're trying to offer big bucks for this other stuff, and then they go and let that team be the homologation or select them. To me, that just kind of contradicts all the other stuff we're hearing.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe Premi-Air has decided it's not worth being a homologation team, and do we focus on our own backyard and fix our two cars? Because I've had good chats with Pete Ziberis, and I honestly couldn't speak higher of him. Like, he was on the phone. So not many team owners will acknowledge verbally that they haven't given their drivers the equipment they need to succeed. And Pete was very clear on that when I spoke to him. I thought it was really good to hear someone say that. So he's going to be realistic with the challenges that they would face going to become a homologation team and the stresses that would put on their team and that might come at the consequence of performance. I'm sure he listens to our pod and he would have seen Ryan's story say how hard it was when they took on the Ford one. And then he'll be like, you know what, on Apex Hunters United, Ryan said that hurt their performance, so maybe we shouldn't do it.
Look, I think, and Pete's obviously a very savvy businessman.
Yeah.
And he would understand what distraction can do to performance in business, and his supercar team is a business. So,
yeah.
And that's why it's not a surprise that maybe that's the only team left that are willing to do it, but I still don't think that's a reason why you should go down that path.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Jason has put in the chat, all exclusives here at AHU.
Well, that's what we do, Jace.
Just here, breaking news. Now, one thing I wanted to touch on, Brock obviously scored 4 qualifying poles in...
Very fast.
I think again, this is a Tanda stat, which I can't remember the exact numbers. God, we are on a roll tonight.
None of this stuff we've looked into. We're just shooting from the hip here, guys.
No, Garth said that he is the most successful driver in qualifying in supercars at the Grand Prix. He's had most poles. But I think he's had 12 pole positions in total, 8 of which have come at the Grand Prix. Okay. Brock. So he's done really well there. But I just think I would have loved to have seen that last race go ahead, because he could have ended up winning the Perkins trophy. But at the end of the day, Brock didn't outscore Will again. Like at Sydney Motorsport Park, I felt like even through practice, like I drove, I was in T8's garage, I drove the car, and it's funny, and this is one of Brock's, this is going to be his biggest challenge, is Will seems to deliver when he has to. And I don't even know how he's doing it sometimes, but on the test day, we did the whole day, Brock was fast. We're scratching our heads. We're trying to find a little bit of time in the car, and Will wasn't overly stoked with the balance. We're in the truck at one point talking about how we can improve it and how unhappy Will was. Brock walking around, pretty chuffed, thinking he's good. Will, at the end of the day, did a lap time that I think he cleaned the field up by 0.4 of a second to Woody was P2. And just did a lap time at the end of the day that was like, where did that come from? And then Sydney Motorsport Park comes around, and I think he was like, at one point he crossed the finish line with 4 seconds to go in qualifying when he's P19.
Yeah, and still
made 10th. He qualified 10th for the shootout, and then somehow dragged it to P2 or P3 and finished on the podium and beat Brock because of obviously the stuff that happened with Cooper Murray. Like, Brock just hasn't been able to, whether right place, wrong time, I don't know whether it's luck, whatever it is with him, he hasn't been able to convert this year already. Like, he's he's just fast all the time and hasn't got the results. So the question I'm getting to is, can he turn the tables at Tapo or not? Toe-paw.
Well, Tapo was the scene
not.
of where I think last year Will got it over Brock, just whether it be that mental psyche thing, because that's where they had that sort of that real rough race where Will got into him and then got past him. And so I reckon if I'm Brock, I'm going back there this year and I'm putting the elbows up as a bit of a stance. So as you said, he needs to do something because extremely fast in qual on greens and stuff like that. But as you say, for whatever reason, Will's just managed to race better and collect more points.
He just comes out like somehow on top when it's unexpected. And I know the T8 car, everyone says how good it is, but it hasn't been easy. Like it's hard to say to people how much they're working internally on a race weekend to get the results they get. Like it does.
It's not a given. It's not a given. They work their ass off.
It surprises me how many changes they're making. Like Sydney Motorsport Park, I don't think I've seen a team make so many changes on one car through a test day and then through the race weekend and get to the end of the weekend. Like Andrew Edwards and Will were just like fucking exhausted. They're like, that was such an emotional roller coaster this weekend to get the results they did. But I think the Brock he's so fast. He's, AGP highlights when a driver can deliver on one lap because you only get one lap really. Yep. And he did all four, bang, 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 nailed it. Hasn't converted yet.
He's textbook. He just needs to race, whether it be a bit harder or whatever. I don't know what's stopping while Will's getting in above him. But as you say, he's a textbook. When you look at a textbook driver, he does that. That's why he's so good in qualifying. It's just the racing for whatever reason, which I'm sure he'll tune up. So I'm hoping he gets the elbows up and can have a great weekend.
Yeah, Grand Prix was definitely out of Brock's control, the wet race.
Yeah, for sure.
And speaking to Beardo as well about the wet race, it's hard. Like he said, if someone ends up, God forbid, but someone ends up seriously hurt, it's his name that is responsible for the drivers. So he said he looks at everything, like spray off of the safety cars. And I did say to him as well, like, who's the safety car driver? And he says Jace. And no disrespect to Jace, but he drives the truck for Supercars. So we need a professional safety car driver.
Like what F1 have. They've got professional drivers in the medical car.
I was about to say
safety car. They're amazing drivers that have got international race wins under their belts in all sorts of categories.
So we need professionals in those cars that can give more information back to Beardo. But there's a lot of factors that he looked at, and he called me to say why they didn't go ahead with the wet race. I think that, and he did say as well, you can't just change the format on weekends. I know a lot of people said why they do the formation lap, including myself. But then he said as well that it's locked in prior to the weekend. So this is something that Supercars need to make a change before they get to the Grand Prix next year. So when they release the calendar, I believe they should remove the 20 or 30 minutes on the grid. He said, of course, they're going to want that though, because they get to walk, say, the mare up and down the grid, and they get to have the fans on the track. The way Formula One has grown, there's banners on the edge of the track now. You can't watch, you can't see. And on TV, honestly, I think people would rather see our cars racing than sitting stationary on the front straight for a moment to look at them. Like, look at a fucking photo. Let's go racing. So starting next year, ditch the formation lap, just roll straight onto the grid. They're looking at, he did say, they might introduce a pit lane on the outside of the circuit. So that will be interesting because removing Supercars from that paddock was a disaster because F2 actually don't use the lane still. They move all of their equipment up to the F1 paddock. So even during the race, they use that and they don't ever use it. So it's kind of a shame that was taken away, but there's a few things from the Grand Prix to learn from, and hopefully next year they make changes to try and maximise the track time and the actual racing laps there. But the wet weather racing, I kind of get Beardo's point, but we still want to see them race. And like I said to him, I don't care, mate. Go-karting, we've driven in some pretty wet races, and you can say we're going slower. But at the end of the day, as fans, we want to see them race.
The simple thing is, you can't see, you drive to conditions. If it's slippery, you drive to like. I know that sounds. I did see we had a few people comment, like officials and stuff, say, "Oh, someone will get seriously hurt, like an official or something." We get that, but you understand all of the safety things that are put in place there at the GP are designed for a car to be doing 300k an hour, like a F1 car. So if they do hit a fence at 150 in the wet, you should be covered because everything's been designed for the worst case scenario. So it kind of, it's not really an argument. We're not saying we don't want anyone to get hurt, obviously, especially officials and things like that. But it's, they're just going to go slower in the wet. Yeah, the chances of them hitting the wall might be, but it'll be a lot slower. So anyway, I thought I'd throw that in. Let's dive back into Toe-paw.
Let's do it. I love a seg. I love getting distracted. And
that's cool.
but go on, mate. Get me back on track.
Let's just go through some of the results from last year, and then we can probably wrap her up. But basically, Saturday quali, we had Matty Payne on pole, Anton in second, Chaz third, Will Davo fourth, Cam Hill fifth, Ryan Wood sixth, Will Brown seventh, Waters eighth, Andre ninth, and Slade in 10th in the qual sesh.
We might be wrong here. Maybe the DJR car, they were P2, P4 in qualifying, and it was a Ford 1 through 4 lockout. Maybe DJR, and that was in the dry too. So 27.9 pole for Matty Payne. So maybe the Ford and DJR can be strong. They were on pole though at Sydney Motorsport Park last year too. Let's not forget.
Yeah, and then the shootout was obviously wet. Looking at the times, so Cam was he was half a second, 5/10 up the road. So Cam was on pole in the shootout. Will Brown was second. Andre was third. Tim Slade fourth. Ryan Wood fifth. Cam Hill sixth. Chaz seventh. Matty Payne eighth. Anton ninth, and then Will Davo was 10th. So it swung around a bit there in the wet, didn't it, mate? Because it was top four were Fords in the dry, and then we had one Ford on pole by half a second, but then there was a few Chevs in there. So whether that's just drivers or what, that's a little bit interesting. But then the Saturday race, we obviously had Andre win for BJR, which was awesome to see. Wet race, super exciting. Chaz put on a big sort of fight for him, but then he had the wheel not going properly and that come off. So that sort of stopped his sort of charge there. Will Davo was second. So again, DJR was strong at Tapo there last year. Anton was third. Again, DJR at the time. Ryan Wood fourth in his rookie season, so he's definitely one to look out for. He's strong there. Jack LeBrock, good job for Erebus there, was fifth. Richie Stanaway sixth. So Richie, I'm interested to see how Richie goes this year too. James Golding seventh, Cam Waters eighth, Will Brown ninth, and Jackson Evans, another Kiwi, was 10th. So that was the wet race. So that was bit of licorice all sorts there, really, when you look through the results there.
It was, and qualifying's always hard to look at when you're talking a wet weather session because how much it's raining. And I do remember that session got real heavy at one point.
Yeah.
So,
and they raced.
I know. And it's so fucking annoying. Even look back at Brazil last year at the Grand Prix. They raced in some gnarly conditions and they're moving. But it is hard. So the half a second gap from first to second, back on track. It's very difficult. I mean, Cam's obviously pumped them, but I don't remember how wet it was. And then we did see in the wet race, Will in the first stint really struggled with tire pressures, fixed that, came back through the field. And then on Sunday, those boys really dominated.
I'll tell you what's exciting too is I'm just looking at Sunday qual, mate, and it was obviously dry.
Yep.
Anton was pole. Chaz was second. Will Brown was third. Matthew Payne was fourth. Ryan was fifth. Brock was sixth. Tim Slade seventh. Brody was eighth. Jack LeBrock ninth. And then Thomas Randall was 10th. But I'm just looking at how damn tight this track is for time. So from pole to fourth, it's less than half a tenth different across those four cars.
Which is surprising. You take into account the surface changes and everything like that.
How many corners there are? I actually didn't realise it was that tight. So that's actually, I think it's going to be, that just lends to it being another cracking weekend of racing if everyone's that close. But in the top 10 shootout for Sunday, we had Matty Payne on pole, which is really cool. It was dry again for that. Brock Feeney second, Brody was third, Anton was fourth, Will Brown was fifth, Jack LeBrock was sixth, Thomas Randall was seventh. So again, points to signs that Thomas is going to be strong if they roll out a strong car.
And close to only 5/10 off P7, 5/10 off pole, which in a shootout is pretty close.
Especially in a shootout, Timmy Slade was 8th, Chaz was 9th, and Ryan Wood was 10th. So again, Walkinshaw were actually quite strong there last year.
Yeah, and Woody very close to Chaz, which we saw him kind of turn the tables on Chaz at the Grand Prix. So be keen to see if that remains the same.
But come to the race, Triple Eight just lights out. So Will was first, Brock was second. We talked about that great race. But then Anton was third. But there was daylight between. It was 15 seconds from second to third. So they were fair way up the road. Matty Payne was fourth, Golding was fifth, Andre was sixth, Chaz seventh, Jack LeBrock eighth, Cam was ninth, as in Cam Waters, and then Ryan Wood was 10th. So, and as you said, mate, 50-50 split on Chev and Ford in the top 10 shootout there. In the top 10 of the race. So
What I'd say though, looking back at last year's results, which might be relevant for this year, this weekend coming, the Fords look good over one lap, but it didn't look like the deg was amazing. And we do have a different tyre, which they keep saying has better deg. So if the Ford can keep its one lap pace, maybe we'll see him take it to the T8 boys this weekend. But
some charges in that race too. Like Golding was up 11 spots in that race, so he must have qualified 16th, and he drove it to 5th.
yeah, up 11. Andre was up 5.
Matty Payne was on pole and he dropped 3.
Cameron Hill up 6 places.
Yeah. So it'll be. I think it'll be a good race. I can't wait. I think good track. As we know, every time Supercars go to New Zealand, Kiwi fans really get behind it. It's always a good vibe. Everyone sort of, has a great time. So I think racing will be good. Hopefully the GP hasn't put a dampener, pardon the pun, on the racing.
Yep.
Like with the couple of things that transpired that weekend. Hopefully that everyone still goes out and goes hammers and tong, which I'm sure they will. So I think it's going to be a good weekend, mate. I'm pumped.
Well, quickly then, I don't know if I'll let you answer or not. Does Brock beat Will this weekend?
I'm going to say yes.
And who comes out then with the Jason Richards trophy at the end of this event?
I'm going to say Brock.
Okay, I'm going to say Will. I think Will somehow still gets it done. And who's your surprise package for a podium? Mine's Woody.
Yeah, I was going to say it. So to not...
No, you can't. That's why I said it first. Cause
to not copy you, mate.
I don't think
I'm going to say Randall. Yeah, I think Randall is my, whether you call it a surprise, but I think he's going to have a good weekend, be on the podium at some point. We got 3 extra races this weekend, so more opportunities for other guys to jump on the podium. We saw how close it was last year. I think it's only going to be closer this year.
Yeah.
So I think Randall can definitely get a podium. I think Brody can be on the podium. Cam Waters is obviously, as I say, there's probably 10.
Remember, there's only 3 spots on a podium.
But there's 3 races, so 9 of them can get on the podium.
3 races this weekend. Prezzo's
So we've got
thrown in there.
9 drivers.
Prezzo's thrown in there. Forward for a podium. Thoughts?
I'd love to see it.
Yep.
I wouldn't be sad to see it.
I think Shane would pick him for a podium.
Shane does love him.
He's a big forward fan. A little bit of a left of field question before we wrap this show up. But if there's anything else you want to know about Tapo, throw it in the comments, and we can ask friends that we know in the lane as well, and I will come back to you in the comment section with an answer. But a left of field one here is, what do you boys think? This is from Oliver on our Patreon. What do you boys think about Bottas/Ricardo wildcard for Bathurst or Perth? I don't see it happening.
If they did, they'd be nowhere.
Yeah.
So I don't think they would do it because they would understand that. We saw it when, and if you haven't watched or listened to our show with James Hinchcliffe, go back, find it and watch it. Even James said it was just like him and Rossi came out and did it, and they were like a fair way off everyone else, and amazing race car drivers, but just it's very hard to pick it up quick enough with the amount of testing miles that they get, which is bugger all essentially. So I just don't think they would, as much as they would love to do it, I'm sure, I don't think they would put themselves in a position to look that silly.
Yeah. And even when Bottas drove at the Motorsport Festival in Adelaide.
Yeah, drove the Techno car.
No, just recently, though, he struggled even in the DTM car with the 3 pedals.
Andrew Medica's car.
Really struggled in that. And then when you go back and watch the onboard of him driving the Techno car there as well, he was really struggling. Like, if you ever want to see someone struggle to downshift a sequential box, that's the onboard.
Really? I've watched it. Yeah, okay.
So I think that, and like, it doesn't take, this is the thing, it doesn't take anything away from their achievements in open wheelers. It's just the supercar is a unique beast to drive.
Different discipline.
And you take it to a street circuit. For reference, I drove
kind of
against Ambrose, though.
Yeah.
At when he came back to Supercars after driving NASCAR, and the guy's a three-time champ in Supercars, absolute, like one of the best of all time. Went and drove NASCAR, come back to Supercars. Before the apex of Turn 1 at Homebush, he was 3/10 down on me, just in the braking zone there. And this is a guy who's done Supercars and won the championship. But you go do something different, your muscle memory's gone. It's a totally different technique to drive these cars. And I think that, driving a car with 2 pedals and paddles to come and driving one of our big old things is a different wheelhouse.
I mean, it would kind of be like being a professional soccer player and then coming to play AFL.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to,
it's so different.
You're not going to make the team, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and I almost think the transition is easier from a touring car to an open wheeler.
Because you've got more grip.
Yeah, and an open wheeler, technically, not to say it's easier, it's hard to find that last 10th or last half second, But to get within a little bit, like we saw Will Brown and Brock go up against Arvid Lindblad in
Smoking.
DRS, and genuinely they did beat him.
Yeah,
And this guy's meant to be one of the next Red Bull hotshots. But if Arvid came and drove a supercar, there's so many things that put you a second off the pace.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you will struggle. But they're unique cars. So to answer your question, I don't see it happening because they've just got more to risk.
It would be cool to
lose.
see, but they would be a mobile chicane.
Yeah. IndyCar, on the other hand, I think they could go and do.
That'd be cool. I'd love to see Ricardo go and have a crack at IndyCar.
Yep. He kind of acknowledged in Drive to Survive, though, maybe the fear is there for him now.
That he's not as strong as...
He said, like, when it's raining, he was kind of like, he said on there, it was actually really good. He said, it's like he's being very vulnerable in saying this. He said, but maybe there's a time where you do have to acknowledge that when it rains, it's not in me anymore to throw caution to the wind.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very good. Well, that's our little pre-brief on New Zealand, guys. Scotty, all the best, mate, driving your Camry.
Thank you.
I just make sure that wheel's clicked on. That'll be good. I'm looking forward to hearing back. And if you can sneak us some onboard footage for our Patreon members.
Yeah,
awesome.
That's the cool thing. I guess don't have to worry about copyright and Patreon. We can throw whatever we kind of want in there.
You have to pay to see it.
Exactly. I can just keep throwing it in. Appreciate everyone's support. Thanks to the Patreon members that joined us tonight. We've done a couple of pods tonight, a few beverages, which has been great fun on a Sunday arvo to chat motorsport.
Thanks, Scotty. Thanks, everyone, for logging in and supporting us, and we'll see you next time.